So I want to just give a little highlight of what we'll be doing today. Um, it would be good to hear what led you to join this workshop or story exploration. I'll go through who I am, and I know Deborah knows me, but a little bit of a bio, why I'm interested in supporting this project, and also my current understanding of the Golden Fleece. And then we'll go into some indications of what is the Argo, what is the Argonauts. I will give you the abridged version of the story. We can speak about the questions you might have discovered in the listening to the story. And today we're going to practice looking at one particular scene, which is the end part of the story, where Medea, who's a princess to a king, often shows up to help our hero, Jason. And at the end of the story, it's again thanks to Medea, who goes herself to offer a magic potion to the king. And we will find out what happens with that. And there'll be an arts process guided by myself with pastels. And if you haven't got a pencil, Deborah, it'd be good to have one and a rubber. It's not something that's on our list, but it's worth having just so, yeah, perfect. And then sharing, making a diamond poem if that's more your cup of tea. We'll finish with some theory, I guess you could say, or the science behind Medea as nature. That's it. Okay. So I want to go into, first of all, actually, just pull up this again. So I've gathered 7 pictures that we'll be working with artistically on the screen using line drawings to discover a motive to our story. But I'm an arts counselor, we could say, or a creative health facilitator is another term. I'm also a quietude practitioner. And one of my life's searches is for truth, for a way to discover truth for myself with peace and quiet around me and within me. It's an ongoing search. And another one is to be seen and heard in the right way and accepted for my search. I have a background of 15 years in corporate banking in the city. So the question of materialism, we could say, in its monetary form, was very much part of my search of what is this substance that we many seem to covet, and how to find a balance of materialism and spirit in our time, I guess. I've got a master's at Tobias School of Art and Therapy, and I've usually worked at Waldorf schools and at Camp Hill with children, and private practice with adults. I'm also a listening facilitator and a singer of all sorts. So that's me, and I wanted to offer my time and skill set and presence to this project because of the conflicts that are going on around the world, and particularly wanted to support the Subdidi project with bringing this particular story. And a little bit of a reading of what are we searching for? Because there seems to be a lot of movement in the world at the moment. Things have changed. And one of the things that we could say could be the search is an inner sense of security as things are moving around us. So how do we face the global changes with an understanding? And what does these changes mean for our personal lives? Could be a question. Now, we can't take ourselves out of life's flow. So how can we create a space in the middle of our hearts and our bodies so that we can feel centered to meet whatever is changing around us with love? And how can we also support each other to find a sense of centeredness? And we can't travel each other's paths for each other, but we can somehow stand together in our search. So the first step is to come to our own soul. And this is where the Golden Fleece story can offer some healing to the soul. So then it becomes a raying out of the soul as a kind of core liberation of our working together. And often we might feel it in eurythmy movement or music, where there are 7 life processes, the 12 senses, or threefoldness of finding the middle as we move. Now, the golden fleece is actually a sheep's woolen skin, and it's shining gold. One of the other pictures is that it's a grail, like a shawl that wraps us, giving us comfort somehow. And it's said that many of us are searching for this sense of security or protection that this fleece can offer. The other aspect of this fleece is that in German, it's a verb, which means to flow. So this question of how do we flow with what's moving around us could be something that we carry through this learning, and that it's golden. Now, Theodore, I remember saying once, he said that the waterfall flows downwards. The fleece flows horizontally, like a river. And there's something golden and something to do with our soul. It's mentioned in the chemical wedding story, and there's a boat involved where people go on an adventure. These brave people appear for Jason to travel on the Argonaut ship. And they flow on the water in search of the fleece, facing many trials and tribulations set by the king. So I will go into the story in a minute, but I just wanted to give a sense of what we're looking for with this particular story. So here's a picture of a ship. It's one that I found on a postcard. The Argo, as Wikipedia says, or the Argo Navis, is a ship. And one of the indications is that it's a group of constellations with the IAU. And there used to be a single large constellation in the southern sky, so a kind of oneness. And then I know in my Indian culture, the word nau means ship or boat. So there seems to be an ancestral connection in my part as well of this ship. The other meanings that have come through on my research is the swift one, or the shining one, or the silver one. And this ship is so fast that King Aeetes' ships cannot even catch up with the Argo ship as they fled with the Golden Fleece. The other part of what I wanted to kind of bring as a picture to hold as we go along is there are these old star maps that I found by someone called Andreas Salarius from the Roman era. And right in the middle here, you'll see a ship. And it's in the center of the Aries constellation, just off the Golden Ram. So there seems to be a pictorial relationship to this oneness of the ship and the constellations that used to be put into pictures in the old days. So I will now read the story in its abridged version. And I invite you to imagine the pictures in your mind. You can have your eyes closed or open, really up to you. But it's this particular part where Medea comes into the king's palace because he refuses to give up his throne even after Jason has successfully met all the trials that were set. And so it's a perfectly fair deal, but he refuses to leave, and Medea comes to the rescue. And we will find out what that is in a bit. So, the king of Iolkos in Greece was ruled by King Aeson, to whom a baby was born called Jason. And it was said that he was one of many great heroes of Greece. It happened that Jason's father, the king, had a younger brother called Pelias, and Pelias was enormously envious that the king was on the throne, his brother. He wanted to be the king. So secretly, he plotted against his brother and he had him killed, basically. So King Aeson was killed by Pelias, and Pelias's men were now after the queen and Jason. Thankfully, there were some good advisors at hand, and Jason and his mother fled and managed to escape before King Pelias could come in. But he took over the country. And Jason and his mother were very, very afraid. So they went from city to city, village to village, knowing that Pelias's men were after them. Eventually, exhausted and tired, they came upon a place where the centaurs lived, who were half man and half horse. And they took the mother and child in. The king, who was called Chiron, the wounded healer, raised young Jason as if it was his own son. And actually, when he was old enough and his mother had passed on, told Jason the story of the fact that he was going to be the king of Iolcos, but his mother had to secretly take him away from the land for his own safety. So from that day forth, when he found out the truth, Jason decided that he would take back the throne from his evil uncle. And yeah, Chiron was happy to help. It was so that the people of the land that King Pelias had taken over did not even like King Pelias, and they hoped that the rightful heir to the throne would return. So King Pelias also knew that one day a man would come wearing one sandal to reclaim the throne. So in the end, when Jason did go back and said, wearing one shoe, in fact, that I want my throne back, he knew it was the one that would overthrow him. So what he did was he said that I can give you your kingdom back, but first you have to do something. And this was quite a cheeky thing, because he said, I just want you to bring back what is rightfully belongs to Iolcos, which is the crown and the rulership of the land. So I want you to bring back the Golden Fleece. And only the man who can bravely bring that Golden Fleece back is the worthy king of Iolcos. So that is what he was going to do. Now, there is a backstory to this. Long, 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 long time ago, even before Jason was born, there was a king in Iolcos whose wife had died, and he'd married another woman who became the stepmother to two children called Phrixus and Helle. The stepmother hated the two children so much, and she made their lives completely unbearable. Now, little Phrixus and Helle, they were brother and sister, and they dreamed of running away somewhere, far away, where their stepmother couldn't harm them anymore. But they knew that if they did escape, she'd only bring them back, and then life would be even more worse for them. So one day when they were walking on the hills, they sat and prayed, as they usually did, praying bitterly through their tears that something would happen that would take them away from these horrors of this stepmother. And then on top of the hill, they saw this shining in the sunlight. And they walked up the hill closer and closer, and they saw that it was a big ram with huge horns, and its golden fleece was shining in the sunlight. And he didn't run away, so they got closer. And then one of the children says, look, he's big enough for us to carry, we could ride him. Let's get on his back. So the two children got on the back of the ram. And Phrixus, the boy, said to Helle, his sister, hold on tight. And just as they were getting comfortable, the golden ram reached to the top of the hill and decided to fly off, with the children hanging on for dear life. away from their evil stepmother. So they were very happy about that. Except as they were flying across the sea and they were approaching a little narrow strait, the wind was quite intense, and Phrixus says to Helle, "Hold on tighter, it's windy here." But one thing led to another, and somehow she lost her grip and fell off the golden ram that was flying through the air over the sea. Now, ever since then, she plummeted to the sea and essentially drowned and wasn't found. And Phrixus had to continue onwards without her. So there is a part between Asia and Europe called Helle's Point, even now, in honor of little Helle who fell there. So at some point, the golden ram arrives at the kingdom of Colchis, and Phrixus is received with kindness, and the boy stays. So Phrixus, who's very happy that the king has given him sanctuary, decides to sacrifice the golden lamb and hands the skin of the ram to his friend, the king of Colchis. And this is how the fleece came to be in Colchis in the first place, as a gift. So the king is very pleased, and it's a beautiful ram, the softest wool, the shiniest golden skin you'd ever seen. And so he decides to hang it up on a tree in a garden called the Grove of Ares. Ares is the Roman god of war, or Mars. And he knew that only the courageous could go anywhere near the fleece. And to make sure that nobody would approach the fleece, the queen of Colchis, who had magical powers, called up a great dragon to guard it. And this was, like I said, long before Jason was born. So Phrixus had fled the land, and the king of Iolcos thought that, well, since Phrixus is the prince of their kingdom, and the Golden Fleece should really belong to them. So back home, the people of Colchis wanted, or rather Iolcos wanted, the ram for themselves, rather than where it's ended up in a different kingdom. And this is where the sort of drama begins, that, who does the fleece belong to? And this is where we meet our hero, Jason, who's very fearless and brave, and agrees to go. So the bravest men volunteer to go with him, and he's very glad for their company, of course. And a huge group of people gather, people with many skills of combat, music, art, science, all sorts of people. People like Orpheus, Hercules go there as well. And Athena builds them a ship called Argo, which sails faster than any other ship. And the word Argonauts, in fact, nauts means sailor in Greek. And so this is where their journey begins. In the retrieval of this fleece, the first person they meet on their adventure is an old man who's trying to eat a piece of meat. And every time he tries to go to eat it as his midday meal, something from the sky swoops down and takes it from his hand. So he's a weak old man trying to eat, and something is taking his food away. And as the brave Argonauts approach, they see that it's a harpy, which is a vulture, with a woman's head. So 2 sons of the wind god go ashore and help the man. And they basically drive this horrible harpy away. And so the old man is so grateful that he tells the Argonauts how to navigate some of the dangerous parts of the sea that they would have to go to. The first part is 2 enormous rocks called the Symplegades that crash if anything goes through them. So the old man tells them that you set free a dove, and as the dove goes through, they will crash. And as they're opening again, you can sail through, which is exactly what they do. Luckily, the dove survives as well, which is great. And then eventually they get to the kingdom, and they say to the new king there, called King Aeetes, that we've come to claim the Golden Fleece. And he said, well, I want you to do some tasks to prove that you're courageous and brave. I want you to plow a field with these very special bulls that I will give you. And I also want you to then plant some seeds. They're no ordinary seeds, they're dragon's teeth into the plowed soil that you will have made with the bulls. So he thinks nothing of it, Jason, that is, and his Argonaut friends go along as well. They know that King Aeetes has a wicked plan and wicked mind, so they go along. Now, the king has a daughter called Medea, which is the lady that we'll be working with today. She, of course, sets her eyes on the handsome Jason and falls in love with him. So she vows in her heart that she will help him. Now, she is the daughter of King Aeetes, so she's got to be very, very careful not to get caught. And she hopes that he will then take her away from where she lives and hopefully marry her. So she also has a certain plan in mind. She has strange powers too that she learned from her enchantress auntie called Circe. So in a way, she's a sorceress of plants and herbs. So she approaches Jason to say, listen, I know what my father has set to you as trials, and I don't think you're going to make it unless I help you. So take some ointment that I've made, rub it on your body, and when you plow the field, you'll be able to conquer the bulls that belong to King Aeetes. She also told Jason how to sow the dragon's teeth so that he's not harmed, and what then grows from them, and what to do in managing to escape from the situation. She also gives him a violet flower and says, this is how you put the dragon to sleep to retrieve the Golden Fleece. So on so many accounts, it's Medea that is somehow behind Jason's ability to face these trials. So in return, Jason indeed promised that when he had retrieved the fleece and he was ready to sail away, he would take Medea with him, which is exactly what she wanted, and that she would be his wife and become the queen of the new kingdom that he would be able to be the king of. And the king knows nothing about this. So the first trial is conquering these bulls. And the king, to prove that, I suppose in his arrogance, that he can do it, he brings these white bulls out, 4 of them, huge big bulls, and they seem quite tame at first. And he puts the wooden frame thing on, and he has them plow the field. And then it's Jason's turn, and he steps forward, except they start snorting suddenly and growing wild, setting the grass ablaze around them. Now Jason's thinking, oh gosh, remembering what Medea had said to him. He has the ointment on his body, and this is how he's able to plow the fields with these 4 bulls, leaving unharmed. Otherwise, they would have torn him to pieces. And with the seeds of the dragon, the teeth, he plants them in rows, except they're not ordinary seeds, and they start to sprout. And they become metallic spears. And as they grow up, they become men. And they start to take their spears and they come for Jason as if they're going to get him. And Jason remembers again what Medea has told him, picks up a stone, throws it at one of the heads of the men, except they don't know it's Jason who did it. So they all start arguing, saying that you threw a stone at me. Before you know it, they're battling each other. And after some time, they're all on the floor. And again, Jason remembers Medea's help. in that. So he goes to the king and he says, look, I've passed 2 of your trials. And the king's rather annoyed, of course. But he says, well, you're not going to get the fleece. He says, I am. So off he goes to the Grove of Arras. It's a long way away and it's dark. But as he approaches the grove of trees, there's something shimmering in the moonlight. It's the Golden Fleece hanging from the biggest oak tree you've ever seen. And as he approaches, you can see the dragon snorting and sleeping sort of underneath, keeping guard. The dragon wakes up, and when he sees Jason approach, he's angry, and he's going to go for him, tearing him to pieces. He will destroy the intruder, as he's done many times before with others. But once again, Jason remembers what Medea had told him, and he pulls out the white flower, and he approaches the dragon very carefully. And as the dragon takes in the scent and the fragrance of this violet flower, he begins to yawn. And he lies down, and he falls asleep, just like that. So Jason, of course, takes the fleece from its place, shining golden in the moonlight, and he's completely unharmed. So he hurries onto the Argonaut ship and where it was hidden. And all his companions are there waiting for him on the ship, very happy that he's managed to retrieve the Golden Fleece. And he remembers Medea, who's also waiting to join Jason and the Argonauts on the ship. And they sail away, basically. Medea, the Golden Fleece, safely on board. Now, by the time that the king of Colchis wakes up in the next morning, the ship has gone, it's far away at sea, and he is furious. Not only has he lost his precious Golden Fleece, he's also lost his daughter Medea. So naturally, as befits a king, he sends lots and lots of ships in pursuit of the Argonauts. But it's the Argonauts' ship. It literally flies across the ocean. No ship can catch up with the Argonaut ship. And the king knows it's done. So this is the part of the story we're going to be working with. So after many adventures, the Argo arrived at Iolcos, but King Pelias was not willing to keep his promise and sent a large army to keep Jason out of the kingdom. The Argonauts could have easily fought and overcome the army, but one of them was Pelias's son, and he did not want to fight against his father. And Jason did not want to go to war against his uncle anyway. So once again, it was Medea who found a way out for everyone. So the Argonauts pretended to sail away. But first, they let Medea ashore just outside the city. She was unseen. She was covered up. And the reason she was covered up was she was made to look like an old woman. And she hunched herself down and she went to the court of King Pelias. And she told him that she had magic powers that could make old people young again. At first, Pelias didn't believe her. And he was wanting to see proof. For he was very old and he was not very happy with his wrinkles and his aches and pains and ailments that were going on. So he told her, I want to see proof. And Medea, being a magical sorceress, she changed herself back into a young and youthful, young, beautiful woman. And as the king looked at her, he thought, wow, I could look young again. And he asked her, how did you do that? She said, I've got a magic potion. And she shows him the magic potion. And he's very convinced at that, and happy to drink the potion she gave him. It was, however, poison, and it killed him. So once the king was dead, his men were no longer in the right frame of mind or the right place of heart to fight or defend the kingdom. So Jason and the Argonauts returned with their ship, came ashore, and he and Medea were crowned king and queen of Iolcos. And the Golden Fleece was hung up in the temple of Ares, just down the road. So that was the story. And at this point, there may be pictures that stand out more so than others, or what you've heard, what came alive in your imagination. And it would be good to hear some of this. I'm wondering, what was the strongest picture that has come alive in your imagination from hearing this adventure so far, this story?
I'm still kind of stuck in my imaginations as a child. I read these stories when I was in fourth grade. My father brought home the Edith Hamilton book of the Greek myths from a trip. But the biggest thing that there's all this activity, but the fleece is sort of the center of it. And that's what stands out in my mind, is this picture of the wool of the sheep, that's this gold. And the feeling of wearing wool, when you know that the difference in wearing wool from other fabrics, when you think about the fact that the wool is from the sheep who has stood in the sun and the weather and has absorbed all of what has happened. And then the wool is processed and made into a garment, and you are literally wearing the sun in a way. And so in my mind, this wool, this fleece is totally connected with the sun and the heart warmth. Yeah. So that's the picture that stays to me, and all of this activity around it is what you have to do, to rightly or wrongly, to get that heart warmth.
Mm. Okay, so the fleece stood out.
Yeah.
Golden part of the fleece. Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, so the Golden Fleece, indeed. Some of the questions that could come of this Golden Fleece as we work with the magic potion scene in our story at the end is, what are we all searching for with this, as you said, Deborah, this garment that's soft, somehow imbued with the sunshine? These are just some of the questions that I've put there that came up. You're welcome to consider what question comes up for you through this story. One of them could be, what are we all searching for in this Golden Fleece symbol? How can we become in resonance with nature or sunshine? How do we discover a new feeling through the art of listening, perhaps, or working together with others through the heart or the sun forces, and supporting each other, what that might look like? Of, as you said, the word warmth, and how do we find that within ourselves and for each other? So this is the art process that we'll be looking at. I'll be presenting 7 pictures, and it would be good to hold a question in mind. It could be something, as you said, about this wool, the sunshine, the warmth, the garment, as you said, or it could be a different question about the scene for this week, which is where Medea offers the potion to the king. He's killed, and they take the throne. And all of this trials and tribulations for this Golden Fleece and the lengths people go through. So if you were to ask it as a question, Deborah, what would that be?
Well, it would be, what is the Golden Fleece, really?
What is the Golden Fleece? Okay. And is it different for others versus yourself? Or the same, I wonder? Yeah. We start with the process. So this is where you'll be placing your pictures. There'll be 7 pictures, starting in the middle. And then moving down to the bottom 3, leaving the middle because that'll be full, and then going to the top again. Okay. And the pictures we'll be working with are these ones here. So there's a series of 7 views of this plant. And we'll be doing line work to it. So I'll just show you, for example. What you'll be doing is scribbling. Can you see my hand scribbling? Okay, camera's stuck.
We could see it, but you're sharing the other is taking the middle of the screen and it's only a tiny, like a thumbnail. So change it to the gallery.
Okay, what I'll do, I'll just demonstrate on the main screen, be easier. We'll be looking at the picture of the plant, the first picture, and then very carefully with your pencil, making a mark of the leaves, perhaps the branch parts that you can see. So you essentially just a little chaotic line to give a sense of where the bush is. And it doesn't have to be little leaf shapes, but just some kind of scribbles. That makes sense? So here's one. That's the first picture. So if you start with that in the middle, Deborah.
Yeah, your picture is
And it
taking
might
a
even
long time to come up. It's still dark for me. It did this the last time too. There it goes.
okay.
So you want just like the movement of the,
You see it?
yeah, I see it,
Yeah.
but you want the line to be like the movement of the plant?
Yes, exactly. Just the movement.
Okay.
So where you've got like this branch here, this thick branch, that could be a line there, a dotted line, maybe this round part. You can even see this log at the bottom. You can see that it's more fuzzy and full of leaves at the top here, so that might be more lines. There's a stretch of line here, and it sort of has a sort of leafy end there. And then this one's reaching out there. So just some kind of gesture of these lines of this plant. And your pencil pressure can give you a sense of weight. So maybe the thicker parts might have more darker lines. The thinner lines of these little wispy branches might have lighter lines. And you're welcome to take your pencil off the page and go to a different part of these shapes, or you can have it continuous line. That's the first picture. And you'll have actually 7 little pictures around your central picture. So keeping it quite small. So we'll be moving on to the next one soon. And we'll stop there. It might even be helpful if I just show you what we're doing. So you will have your middle part covered with the first picture. And we'll be moving to the next position on the picture. And then picture 3, 4, and then round to the top. So what you may end up having is something like this. A lemniscate of just lines, little views of each of the pictures. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go to the next picture then. And you can move to the next part of your paper. There it is. So now the view of the same plant, but slightly different. So again, you can see that here you can see a thicker branch in the middle. And I like to start with that line. There's a medium thick branch here on the side. There's also thumb at the top. And it gives you a little bit of a structure to kind of hang the wispy parts where these brown leaves go. And bringing this one to a close as we move on to the third one now. Okay. So here's the third picture. So it'll be coming round to the bottom somewhere of your lemniscate assortment. So here in the third picture, you can see this thicker view of the branch. The main middle one. There's also a thick part at the bottom. If you wanted to take that. But really it's about trusting your intuition and your hands. And finishing this one. Okay, so the fourth one is this one. So you notice the fourth one will have to go at the top, just on the other side of the middle one. So there'll be 3 pictures of the plants at the bottom, 1 in the middle, and 3 at the top. So now you're crossing that middle first one that you did and beginning to place your fourth one just after that first one you did. Does that make sense, Deborah?
Yeah.
Cool. So here's the fourth one. So you have this thick part here, kind of twiggy part here, and the rest of them are kind of wispy. There are more leaves at the top. There may be more lines for you. And here you can't see the bottom of the plant because it's covered with leaves. And there's even this long branch that stretches down with a few leaves here. Playing with the pressure, playing with the different scribble lines. And it doesn't have to be exact, but just something of the weight of the leaves, the directions. And bringing this one to a close when you're ready. Okay, so some lines have come. That's it. On to the next position. Plant number 5, or rather the same plant, but different view. So now the lines are slightly different, where we can see part of the bottom again. It curves up to the right. Different view of where the plant leaves are and the twigs.
I'm sorry, Nisha, where is this one? Is it at the very top, or are we going to the right of the middle on top?
How do you mean?
In the circles on your page, where is
Yes.
this one to go?
This one would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so just so it at the top. So if you hold up your paper for me, then I can let you know.
Here, I can change my camera.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
Would it be up here at the top here or
just
here?
slightly to the left. Slightly to the
What?
left. Close. Just slightly to the left.
Here?
As in the right then.
Here?
Up a bit more. Yeah,
Here?
exactly where you
The
were
cen-
before.
So the center of the top.
Um,
If, if this one is, this is the, oh, I see it's reversed from here. It's a reverse image. Let's see if I can show this better. Ah, It's very tricky.
That's okay.
See if we can make it higher. And now look down. So
So where your finger is right now,
this one, yeah,
just above that would be fine.
just above here.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool.
Not that I,
Because you've got two more after this one. Okay. And it's okay if they're going to overlap and touch each other as well. Now I'm bringing that one to a close. You happy to move on? Deborah?
sorry, it was
Oops,
muted. Yes.
yes, cool. So here is the penultimate view. So moving on to another piece of your paper. There'll be one more after this. Again, using the directions of the leaves to make marks of what you see. Maybe some thicker lines for the thicker parts that might be the trunks or bigger branches, perhaps. You may even want to take some of these green leaves at the bottom if you feel like it. I'm bringing this one to a close. Any last obvious marks that you'd like to add?
Already.
Okay, so the final picture is this one. There's even a little bit of a darker part that's appeared at the bottom. So different shapes and lines of the same plant. And again, the more you look, the more you'll sort of notice what's there. And just to somehow bring that gesture into the piece of paper with the different thicknesses of leaves, maybe shadows, lines. and completing it with the last few marks. Okay, wonderful.
I don't know if you can see it all. Oh, if I do it this way.
Yep.
There isn't all of it though. You have this. That's the bottom.
Feels like the bottom. So it would be good now to share the screen again. So you're looking at your paper with these different line markings in a cluster. And the next step would be to turn it around in 4 different directions and begin to find 2 heads, at least 2 heads, some kind of line that reminds you of heads. And it could be in any direction. And there might be many heads. So see if your eyes can begin to find a relationship between this Medea, this sorceress of nature, medicine woman, nature lady, and this old king who's very taken, initially meeting an old woman. As the story goes, she's disguised, comes to the king with a magic potion, and he's old and would also like to be young, which is what she promises him if he takes the potion she offers. And of course, he'd like to be young, so he accepts the potion and drinks it. It is poison, and he dies. And Medea and Jason take the kingdom. So somewhere you may discover a Medea and an old king, or you may discover with your intuition something entirely different, and that's okay too. So see if you can discover a relationship between 2 people that appear in these shapes as you turn it in different directions. And you might begin to get a sense of where their limbs are, where their bodies are. And if you were in the room in this palace with Medea and the old king, what would you see there? What kind of outfits are they wearing? Are there jewelry, drapery, some kind of dresses that are different? Maybe headdresses, furniture even. There may be different feeling responses to what you're noticing, but to trust that if there is some kind of image or motive appearing for you, feel free to add some lines now onto your piece of paper to bring out the shapes. And you can add extra lines or take away lines with a rubber as well. But in these 7 clusters of plant marks, you're looking for where is Medea and the Old King. But if your intuition says something else or someone else there, it could be any scene that wants to be there from the story or somewhere else. So listening to your intuition and what wants to be there today. Yeah. The different postures of the two people might be there, or three or four. It could be a bird's eye view or a horizontal view. So you're looking for limbs, faces, some kind of relationship between two. You have something, Deborah? Can't hear you. It's on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I have an idea.
Okay. Okay.
It's not
So
exactly,
something's there. Cool.
it's not exactly,
So feel free to use the rubber once you get a shape that you're happy with, adding clothing if need be, furniture, jewelry, background,
well,
getting your
here,
proportion.
I'll show you a
Mhm.
bit of this to
Okay.
see what I've started anyway. I'm
Okay.
not very, I'm not an artist in any way, shape, or form. Where did it go? Oh, I can't see my screen this way. Let's see. View. So if you look at this, how am I going to show this? If I'm not showing it, oh, it's kind of backwards from what I wonder if I can. I wish there was a way I could turn it around, kind of, because if you see here,
Mhm.
this is kind of his crown here.
Mm.
Can you see that?
Yes.
And then here is
Oh
his,
yeah. Wow. I see him. Oh wow. Deborah. Yeah.
but it really comes out of more of a landscape, right?
Mm. There he is.
Looks like a nature being.
Mm.
I don't know. Can you see that?
I can, yes, I can.
Hmm.
Okay, so there, and you're putting a face on him. Okay, and
Here's his
crown.
eyes here.
Yeah.
There's his eyes here.
Okay. And has he already been poisoned, or is he before being accepting the?
He's before accepting the poison. He's looking very much in control here.
Okay, cool. Mm, there he is. Now, is he looking up at the ceiling or
He has no
horizontal?
idea. He's
No
looking
idea.
straight ahead here.
Okay.
Um, here's his
So,
eyes here. Oh yeah, you can see it. I see now. Yeah, there
see,
you go.
yes. Yeah, I can see it.
So he's looking straight ahead.
Gosh.
And then I think this is Medea over here, up into the side.
Okay.
Here she is, you see.
Yeah,
Somehow that's still undefined.
that's okay. It'll come. I'll leave you to it, Deborah. Good. We've got 20 more minutes, but I'm going to let you carry on with that and see where we are with. Yep. Because once you've found Medea, you can begin to add your pastel colors.
I think if I do more, I'm going to wreck it. So I just kind of leave it at that guess there. Here she's presenting the potion,
Ah,
approaching with the potion.
yes.
He's here.
So this is what I found in the lines that I had. Um, my Medea happens to have a hat. There's the king on the floor. So now the invitation really is to include some colors in pastels, just to bring out some of the background and the people that are there. Just you can start lightly, just to add a few colors, and you can continue on afterwards if you like, because it can help to bring life to it, to bring it to the colors of the soul. So maybe some skin tones for the king, or something of the background to where they are. I mean, is Medea standing on something? Is she floating, sort of hovering to the king? Um, Maybe there's a light source in the room that could be brought in through the colors. And it may be that you discover new aspects of the picture as the color goes on, or further clarity to what's already there. Maybe something changes.
Yeah. So this is, I'm not sure I can go any further without making it destroyed even more, but here's where we are.
Okay. Ah, yes. Okay. Yes, that's the idea. Yeah. Because we don't want to kind of impose it or think it, but to discover it as a gift. So
It actually,
that's
to me,
exactly
seems like
done.
she is just really part of himself or a muse in a way, not really someone he's meeting in real life, which is interesting.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Because partly because of the way they're juxtapositioned against each other. I
Hmm, yeah. And
think I can make,
maybe he wasn't looking in the direction when she approached when she first came.
yeah.
And that's just how it is. Yeah. And it could be that if your intuition says that something of their view or dynamic needs to change, then that could be the next step on a different piece of paper.
Okay.
So the same characters, the same colors, even, of what is the next step that can be taken with the king and Medea. Is it a turning around to face each other? Is it that, we get to see more of him, maybe more of her? or from her perspective, perhaps, because we're sort of clear on what he looks like. So, it's really intuitive what your next step might be. But
Mm-hmm.
this is how I happen to work. That, oh yeah, this is the gift I received, the current position. Now, how do I baby step myself so that there is some kind of an encounter? And this
Mm-hmm.
can have direct recognition in your life of who is the king, and, as you said, what is the fleece, more importantly, or rather, what needs to happen to discover the fleece, perhaps. But yeah, nice one, Deborah. Um, yeah, that's it. So we've added color. And one of the things that I like to ask at this point is, do you have a question, either from the old king or from Medea? And some examples are here. So something like, I wonder who, I wonder what, I wonder where, when, which, how, whether, why. And it could be that it relates to what you've just identified quite naturally about the dynamics at the moment. But always good to kind of articulate it, voice it, if something comes, and to take that question into the night. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, they already have the fleece supposedly in the picture on the ship, and they've come back to the kingdom to take over the kingdom, and the king won't let up. So this
Mm-hmm.
situation has been created, and yet, what is the necessity of it, considering they have the fleece? I mean, if we stick with the story, that is, it does continue, where there's other parts where the couple are married and he strays. Yeah. But yes, where is the fleece? Is a great question. Okay. So we'll be winding up soon. And I just wanted to bring this little quote by the writer of Jason and the Golden Fleece. A working woman, rising before dawn to spin and kneading light in her cottage room, piles brushwood on a smouldering log, and the whole heap, kindled by the little brand, goes up in a mighty blaze. Such was the fire of love, stealthy but all-consuming, that swept through Medea's heart. In the turmoil of her soul, her soft cheeks turned from rose to white, and white to rose. Now, I also wanted to just leave you with something about the Aloysius mysteries, where Rudolf Steiner had said that the fleece is something that belongs to the human being, something that is infinitely valuable to us, something that was separated from us in ancient times, and whose recovery is linked to the overcoming of terrible powers. Thus it concerned the eternal in the human soul. The eternal is experienced, and this eternal in the human being, this unborn, the part of the universal human soul that remains in the spiritual world, is, according to Rudolf Steiner, nothing other than the sister soul of Adam, the non-fallen part of the original human being, which was to be born in the primordial night as the Nathan soul in one of the two Jesus boys. So gradually the Nathan soul approached the earth, and he appeared in the Greek mythology in the divine figure of Apollo, who actually leads into the Aloysius, I'm not saying that right, but Aloysius stories, and Jason and the Argonauts feature there. And in the Atlantean times, this being had a harmonizing effect on the relationship between the sun, moon, and the earth, which is the human thinking, feeling, and willing. And it's said that all our culture is expressed in the Greek myth as the education of the astral body. And this is the battle against the dragon, which is what we saw with Jason when he had to conquer various challenges posed by the kings with the help of Medea against the dragon, or the serpent that watches over the fleece. So this is in an article that I can send you if you like, called The Turning Point of Time. And this is just one part of what it says there. But it may offer some clues to you, Deborah, about the search for the fleece. So just let me know if you would like it. Otherwise,
Sure.
these, yeah, okay, cool. These are just, yeah, some indications of what's possible in our search for the fleece. And that brings us to the end of our time. And a little picture of this that I found of a sheep and lamb. Oh, my internet is unstable. And I thought it would be good to just finish with this little song about a boat. Do you know this tune, Deborah?
Yes.
Okay. So after 3, 1, 2, 3. Speed bunny boat. You joining me, Deborah?
I don't think we can do it together on Zoom, but we can try.
We can try. Go on. Speed
Bunny boat like a bird on the wing. Onward the sailors cry. Carry the lad that is born to be king. Over to the sea, to sky. Loud the winds howl, loud the winds roar, thunder claps rend the air. Baffled our foes stand by the shore, follow they will not dare. Speed bunny boat like a bird on the wing. Onward the sailors cry. Carry the lad that is born to be king. Over the sea to sky.
Nice one. So that's the end of our workshop today.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry I was the only one.
That's okay. Various people had things on, so they'd rather catch up on the recording. Well, thank you for joining, Deborah, and I wish you well with your search for the Golden Fleece. Thank you. All right. Bye for now, Deborah.